Oh, really? Okay.
We know.
Okay. All right. So let's make a start. Good morning, everyone. Lovely to see so many people in person. Seems like a long time since we were actually in person in one of these meetings. We have apologies from, I think, from Kruger, although she may join online. Is that all? I'm Shirley. I forget Shirley. Any declarations, new declarations of interest? Minutes of the last meeting. They were included in the pack of papers. Any comments, changes? I don't know if you could just let me have a copy for signing.
Yeah.
Right. So, Chief Exec's report, Wayne.
I mean, not much to add really since the last meeting, which was relatively recently. I think I just wanted to tell you that the staffing situation continues to be quite stable, although we've had one leaver who was our communications and campaign lead, and we then did I think it was a written resolution to just slightly rejig the communications team, and we have subsequently advertised for replacements. And Ali, can you tell us how many people have applied for those posts, those two posts?
So the more senior role of behaviour change and campaigns manager, we had, I think, 78 applications. Wow. And for the junior role of communications and campaigns assistant, we had 430.
We just failed to recruit from that area, so okay.
You need a very good assistant. Wow. Many.
That is amazing.
Yes. We're not quite sure how that happened. But yes, a combination of
I'm just printing the salary.
Don't say that. I mean, we don't really know, do we? Do we have why that happened and why it was so successful?
Assistant position, we did advertise it as being potentially suitable for some of the reason graduate we didn't really have lots of experience, but accreditation was about passion for the cause. Everyone now runs the and interested in comms, which is a much more kind of transferable skill. The job got picked up. The job got picked up by recruiters that we didn't pay to advertise with, so it was cross-posted on university graduation boards, it was cross-posted on lots and lots of things. So we've learned some lessons. I'm sure you all know that I'm no stranger to high volume of applications, so it's great.
Yeah, luckily Jo just went through and did a very
Thank you.
So low barrier to entry, reasonable salary, gives us an opportunity to get good people. So that's the only thing on.
Hello. Can you hear me, Adam? I can't hear you. Is there, and there's a reason I can't use the Teams link I was planning on using. Can't even.
good job of tested this in
I think they
advance.
do.
Ah, I can hear you now. No, I can't.
We've just started going through Wayne's chief exec's report.
Okay.
Okay, I'll just carry on then. So yeah, we've been successful in principle for a project to do some work on food waste. It's around £100,000, of which circa 15% will be overheads contribution. We'll tell you more about that when it's secured. And I think that's, I mean, so you'll have all met Katie by now. Katie is the new Director of Partnerships and External Affairs. And so in terms of our stakeholder relations, we hope to massively improve our stakeholder relations in general. We're aware that we need to do better, particularly with London Council's elected members, specifically tech members and environment portfolio holders. Liz, Katie and I had a meeting to discuss how we're going to do that, and we'll continue to improve our general relationships. And today, I think, is the start of like fundamentally resetting that and rebooting that relationship. So
I think it's disappointing that we still don't have nominees to replace the two who've left. I did make that point at the text to the Labour Chief Whip and said this meeting was very important, the away day, but apparently we don't have nominations.
yeah, thanks, Nicholas. I mean, that report did get back to us, and subsequently Clyde has been in touch, and we are now we're talking to Clyde about setting up a date for a process, but it clearly will be after today. Do we have a date yet? Yeah. But we are in communications. There's been some applicants, there is a short list. So
But thank you for raising that.
yeah, thank you for raising that. And that's really, I don't think there's anything in the communications and publicity that we want to pick out particularly. So I think that's it really, unless anyone.
Program updates then.
Shall we start with the program updates?
Yeah. So maybe one thing to mention is so we've kind of kickstarted our work with funded by the UK Social Prosperity Fund, developing circular business model. And as part of that, we've launched a call for funding 9 on 10 circular businesses working in the food sector. So developing solutions to tackle food waste or create some new projects with from food surplus. And we've just gone through the grants panel this week, and so the grantees should know by the end of the week that they have been selected. But we've selected like 10, so we're quite excited about the projects that they've put forward.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing.
Okay.
Yeah, if there are any questions,
Local authority support.
Yeah, take the report as read as Pauline has. But I've got a couple of points I would like to raise just in the confidential section. I'll be able to say more about the funding that we received there. So really just in this report, 2 things to mention you'll be aware of that have happened in our area are the release finally of government's announcement on the simpler recycling, previously known as consistency, and what that will mean for local authority services over the next couple of years and when service changes will need to be made by local authorities. And government were consulting on their guidance for simple recycling, which we coordinated with the GLA and London councils and the London boroughs to prepare a response, and that has now been submitted. So this is going to drive a lot of our work over the next couple of years as we support local authorities to prepare for those service changes that they will need to make. And we're speaking to central government about where there will be particular gaps where local authorities will need additional support, and that's obviously for London in those kind of denser areas around flats. And we have hopefully got a meeting coming up with DEFRA in a couple of weeks. I've gone back to them twice now. them, they said, we'd like to have a meeting. I've chased them twice with the dates that I sent them, and hopefully it'll be in the week of the 18th to discuss that. But we're also making the case, obviously, that funding not only needs to be made available for the kind of the service provision, but also for behaviour change shift funding for comms and behaviour change activities. So I think that's something to say on that. And then the other point, just to note from my update, is the most important thing in most local authorities year is when the local authority recycling rates are released. So if you haven't noted, they're normally released in December, but government, I think probably because they're still playing catch up from releasing the simpler recycling stuff, have said they won't be released now until March. So no pre-Christmas announcements that we would normally have. I'm sure that your authority had been looking forward to it.
We have indeed.
Previously been top of the tree.
Top of the tree.
The Christmas, but they will now be coming out in March. So let everyone. That's it for me, other than
Your comment about the government change in legislation impact on recycling rates making me think about the fact that Jamila and when you went to the London Assembly might want to report that.
Okay, so we can do that now. Yeah, so the end of last month, 18th, was it? 15th, a date that's seared in your mind. We went to the London Assembly Environment Committee to give evidence to the committee. There'll probably be a report, presumably. And the committee were looking at London recycling rates specifically, really, not generally the circular economy or waste, but London recycling rates. So Jamila and I attended along with Matthew Homer from Islington, Rachel Espinosa, who is the Deputy General Manager of Western Riverside Waste Authority, and Ray Parmenter from the CIWM. Guy's name from bio collectors, anaerobic digestion plant in Mitcham, I think. We presented the London recycling rates, which have basically flatlined at around 33% for how long? Yeah, a long time. And we talked about all the work that we do on flats in particular, and they were very interested in that and had some specific questions on that. And we talked about the government's delay in implementing simpler recycling, effectively the handbrake on increased investment in recycling collection systems in London, and that once the simpler recycling dates were finalised and issues around new burdens were finalised, that should free up local authorities to start investing again. And we expected recycling rates to go up to around about 40-ish%. But there are some questions around the dates and the timing. So we're still really, I guess we're still waiting a little bit, aren't we, Anthony, in terms of clarity?
But we know the date. The issue will be on what's covered from new burdens funding. So the procurement lead time.
Oh yeah, because everybody will be wanting
to procure at the same time. So whether or not the market itself can cope with that kind of increased demand for collection infrastructure, that will be required.
Did you want to add anything similar to that?
Really, I just think that they seemed quite happy with the answers that we gave them, and felt that what we were saying was like explain the trend. There wasn't anything kind of pushing back or suggesting necessarily that was missing in our kind of efforts. So I think that was quite positive. They won't be doing a report, I think they did one in 2021. But I think they'll be writing a letter, but I don't think there was anything that we didn't answer that we have to follow up on. So I think, yeah.
I did ask about funding, and I did make the point, and again, for the record, as a statutory body with statutory objectives, that some form of public sector funding is, is anathema that we aren't in receipt of that, and we continue to make the case to government along those lines. But as a public sector body, we're unable to programmatically plan. As a a normal public body would, because we have uncertainty over future funding, and we'll discuss that later. But that means that we can't promise to continue to help local authorities and help to increase their performance in this area, because we don't know what our funding is likely to be. And that is somewhat of a dichotomy or a contradiction, considering that we have specific objectives around promoting and encouraging the reduction of waste and increase in recycling.
Yeah.
I asked this question out of ignorance because I'm not on any planning committees. Are the planning policies on new flats being built so they've got the recycling as part of the condition of planning development? Do you know that? If not, should we be promoting that?
We do promote it locally, I think, as a national position, to be honest. I don't know if Anthony is, but we do have.
But it's local SPGs.
They used to be, as far as I remember. I don't know how specific or up to date they are, but we have been doing work with authorities like Tower Hamlets, who you would expect to be particularly interested in this area, around supplementary planning guidance, and presumably any future update of the London plan 4 years hence, will continue to press the point. And we also work very closely with local authorities on construction waste and on trying to implement local policies. So, and we have a network of boroughs in this space who we are working with. So we'll continue to press the issue.
I mean, it's interesting because there's obviously a disconnect through departments dealing with environment and planning. If you've got any guidance which we can issue to the London local authorities about, there's a lot of new flat building obviously going on, that would be very helpful.
Yeah.
I say I speak from a position of ignorance. I've never sat on a planning committee, thank God. But it does occur to me that this is something we're getting at more and more applications for high-rise developments. And clearly, if we can build it in as a condition, that would be useful.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's certainly one of the factors in some boroughs who've seen an increase in their flatted developments, because now pretty much all development in London, all residential development is flatted. And some boroughs have seen a massive increase in that over, the course of the last few years, which has held down their recycling rate, because we know that communal recycling is more of a challenge than curbside recycling.
And it tends to be younger people who, for some reason, are a lot harder to reach.
Thank you. Any other?
Ali's got an update.
And you were up to.
Just a couple of quick things. Again, take it as read on most of what we're doing in my team. Circular Economy Week feedback is that it was very strong this year. We had more events than we've ever had before, 78, 8 of which were ours, and quite a lot of new partners, which is really positive. Interestingly, lots of consumer-facing events, citizen-facing events this year, which it's not set up as a citizen-facing activity, but people are increasingly engaging with it. Businesses doing repair workshops or community groups getting involved in some way, shape or form. So about a quarter, I think, of the events ended up being business to consumer rather than B2B, which is what we normally do. And there's a full evaluation interested and would like to find out more about how Circular Economy went and what we learned from doing it this year. And the only other major thing is to say that we are seeking funding for at least one more year of the Eco London campaign, because it's got quite a lot of life left in it yet. And we've started those conversations with boroughs and waste disposal authorities, and spoke to the One More Living steering group about it last week. A lot of support for continuing, and not really find the funding to make it work and have the impact that it needs. Remains to be seen, but we're actively involved in doing that over the next few months. So hopefully, the ability to keep going on that one. You'll see.
And we'll update you later on some impact data. I think it's in the slide pack of early results from awareness for the campaign, which has been amazing, I think.
Very good, particularly the claimed behaviour as a result of seeing, or sides seeing the campaign, whether we can put a causal attribution in there or not is a question for the data analysts.
It certainly got recognition, because when I was doing New York Climate Week in September. Somebody who'd been travelling through London actually commented on the line. They actually quoted back feedback.
That's fantastic. Well, that's very good to hear.
So we should have that. It's got reach in New York.
Yeah.
You have to have it.
I had a conversation, I was in Milan a couple of weeks ago for the closing down of the food waste project, and the project director, who is actively involved with EU funding, actually wants to have a conversation with me this month.
Wow.
Fantastic, yeah. Like London are going to sit well in there.
They think of themselves as quite foodie, I would have thought.
So do we.
Super, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Any other questions, comments? Any? Okay, we're rattling through things.
Good.
So the next item on the agenda was governance review updates and board responsibilities. This is really just a bit of a placeholder, and we probably need to do it again, in fact, when we get a full complement of board members. But given the discussion we're going to be having later on, I just thought it'd be useful just to remind ourselves of the role of the board in terms of helping to set the strategy, making sure that we're doing all the things that ReLondon is doing, all the things we need to be doing, but also representing ReLondon in dealings with government. And I know, Nicholas, you've been working hard to sort of make sure that we're thinking about our interactions with government, but thinking about the role we play in terms of helping to make sure that we're representing London, ReLondon rather, to all those people. And just wanted to make sure everyone saw those words again of the responsibility of the board. And then the second thing I wanted to just reiterate is that I'm planning to try to make sure that we reinstate the face-to-face, certainly an annual meeting between myself and each of the board and the advisors, to make sure that we're just sort of talking about how's the board going, how do we need to improve, what are the things you need, what are things ReLondon might need. So I'd like to make sure that we do that starting from now again, and also try to make sure that more people turn up to face-to-face board meetings, make board meetings face-to-face as a norm, exceptional occasions when people can't do it face-to-face. Because I think although we've made remote Zoom meetings work, they're not the same as occasionally getting together, and we ended up together a few times a year. I'd like to try to reinstate that.
Could we have a structured board? Because I'm not clear. I know that a certain London Council representative, what flexibility we have, because I agree with you in terms of skills audit is crucial. Could perhaps we have the structure, what by law we must do, how much flexibility we have in size, etc. would be very useful.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to just give a verbal overview?
Yeah.
And then something afterwards.
Yeah, so the statutory objectives are in the Act. The order sets out kind of more governance-y stuff, and that says there should be 8 members. Doesn't give a, I mean, so this is how we've got around it with advisor, with Mike. If you want to say got around, we've supplemented that minimum. So it says 8 members, 4 local authority elected members to be nominated by the London councils as a whole. So not London Council as the organisation, but the London councils as a whole. And then 2 independents to be nominated by the London councils, 1 independent to be nominated by the Mayor of London, and then the Mayor of London chairs the board or his representative. So that's how the board structure is set out, and that's by law. So we don't have any, you know, it's not like an NGO or a company. And then it pretty much says we can then do what we like in terms of setting out code of conduct, how we organise ourselves, how we pay ourselves, how we structure the team. That's all down to us. The only thing we can't do, and I'm not sure if this is in the Act or the order, is borrow money. Really, it's in the order. Yeah, but that's it. And we'll send that round. It's in the the information that's all going to. Yeah.
So we don't really have any control over the structure of the board and who's on it.
Well, except it's an order. So in the sense that the order is the order, then we don't, but it's just an order. So, you know, we can always, if we so desire, and bear in mind, we are talking to government, we can always go back to government and ask them to change the order. I don't know how difficult these things are. But I mean, I understand they're relatively simple to change the order. I don't know what process they need to go. It's not an act. So, you know, it's not as flexible as, it's not within our gift.
No.
At this point, I think.
Because most organisations do have a little bit of flexibility to call people onto the board. For particular skills.
Yeah.
It does seem to me we're being very tightly constrained, a very local government structured. The four of us plus the mayor's nominees, basically, it's a load of politicians. Sorry, speaking as a politician myself. And I think we would benefit if we could go back to government and say, actually, we want to bring in some people with these skills who are not politicians.
That's one of the reasons we brought in the advice.
Sure. That's right, but it puts them in a slightly difficult position. They haven't got a vote or anything.
Yeah, so that's the work that we've done in this last year.
Yeah.
Has been, so the constraints of the audit committee, there aren't any, we can bring people in, so we've got Demetra and Aya, who's on holiday, would be here if she could, have come and joined the audit committee to bring in those extra skills that we identified. And then Sean, who's here in the room from Green Alliance, we've got Mike on the line from Eunomia, have come in as board advisors. So that's that additional skills that we've identified in this last year. I think we're starting to go through this process now, like what's the future for us look like? And then I think once we've kind of got a really good sense of that, we'll know whether it's worth going through the pain of trying to change the order to make sure that we've got the governance structure to support it. So that's kind of,
yeah,
we've done it, don't want to use the word fudged, but we've got a workaround for now that isn't going to be really distracting in terms of kind of legal.
I know Katrina's watching this. It's been embarrassing for me as a member that my colleagues, because they're very busy. I mean, we had Claire was leaving Lambeth Council now, chairing London councils. We need to try and make sure that the new members can make the time commitment to the organisation. I feel I'm almost carrying the whole London council. So I think I'm not missed a meeting, but it is difficult. I know they're very busy, but we need to perhaps encourage people who may not be the most senior in the organisation. So they're going to be portfolio holders, but might have a little bit more time.
Well, I mean, we fully appreciate the fact that you've been carrying that burden, because I think it's been obvious to all of us as well. And you know, when we actually had a conversation before you arrived, saying if we don't have somebody from London councils here, we're not called for a kind of meeting. And you know, I said, all right, well, this will be here. So, but yes, it's quite well made.
Say, for the purposes of this afternoon, that's exactly the purpose of having invited the full group. So for this afternoon, which is not part of the formal board structure, but it's a really important forum for board input into strategy. Everybody's here on a like level footing, and we encourage contributions from everybody. But you're right, Nicholas, that's exactly the point of like getting everybody here, sort of wider group.
To be fair, Adam has been very good at trying to schedule the meetings with the other conflicting meetings. In fact, there was one that did conflict with the tech and we moved it. I mean, it's about balancing act, but
we try and carry it, you know, vice president about a year in advance if we can. I'm pretty sure this has been a diary for quite a while, but I think having the opportunity to meet in person on a regular basis would make every bit of difference to just having those corridor conversations and just building a relationship, which we haven't been able to do or we haven't done since lockdown. So, you know, I think it's time we reverted to those in person.
Yeah, is it worth making a minimum that you need to attend in person? So then you can.
Well, we were talking about making it, you know, the norm is to be in person.
Yeah,
except there's.
I think that's important.
Or maybe we can all agree that and note that.
Yep,
that's great.
Be good. All right. Anything else?
Now you've made the effort to come in.
Get back to warm house.
Okay, anything else? No, okay,
Great.
right. Any other business? Formal